The sky above Manhattan boiled with emerald fire. From the rooftop of the Baxter building, Dr. Doom hovered like a judgment passed upon the world below. His cloak cracked like a banner in a cyclone, and the runes inscribed along his armor shimmered with otherworldly heat. Around him, the Avengers fought to contain the chaos erupting from the arcane breach Doom had torn open. "Your persistence is irritating," Doom announced, his voice resonating through a dozen amplifiers and spells. "But it is predictable." Iron Man launched upward, his repulsors blazing. "Predictable? Buddy, I've got 57 countermeasures specifically labelled Doom, and I haven't even opened the good ones yet." A volley of missiles spiraled toward Doom. With a lazy gesture, Doom opened a floating glyph of green light. The missiles passed through it and detonated behind Iron Man instead. "Stark," Doom said. "There is no tactic you possess that I have not already mastered." Thunder cracked. Thor descended like a comet, Mjolnir drawn back to smash Doom into the street. But Doom didn't flinch. A magnetic shockwave blasted from his armor, suspending the Thunder God mid-strike. Thor snarled, his muscles straining against the invisible force. A beam of scarlet energy slashed toward Doom, the Scarlet Witch, but he swept it aside with a counterspell that inverted the hex, forcing her to throw herself backwards to avoid her own magic turning volatile. Through the chaos, a single figure moved with deliberation rather than haste. Doctor Strange ascended into the air, the cloak of levitation billowing behind him. "Victor," Strange called, his voice echoing with mystic resonance. "End this now. You have endangered millions just to satisfy your pride." Doom turned toward him, and behind his mask, a smile formed, small and cold. "My pride has no need for satisfaction, Stephen. What I seek now is transcendence." Energy crackled between them, the air trembling as two sorcerers aligned their will. The Avengers regrouped below, but something about the moment made them hesitate. This confrontation was different. Doom and Strange were not merely trading spells, they were engaging in a duel of destiny. Strange summoned sigils of golden fire, Doom invoked glyphs of green. The air shivered and split. Bolts of powerful force clashed mid-air, ripples expanding outward like shockwaves in a cosmic ocean. Nearby buildings groaned under their assault, windows shattered across multiple city blocks. Strange pushed forward, weaving time-warping threads, illusions, and binding chains. But Doom countered each one with brutal and calm efficiency, diverting or unraveling the magic like a composer dissecting a melody. "You cannot defeat me, Strange," Doom declared. "You are skilled, yes, but your spirit wavers. You doubt. I do not." Strange's eyes hardened. "I don't need certainty. I only need a second." He conjured a lattice of spells, folding them into one another, something forbidden, dangerous, and unstable. Even Doom paused, trying to analyze what was in front of him. "Stephen, what folly is this?" "A last resort," Strange replied. The spell ignited, forming a sphere of light around Doom. For the first time, Doom's armor chimed warnings. Dimensional geometry warping, reality distorting. Strange's face tightened in concentration. "Forgive me, Victor." The sphere collapsed into a point of blinding radiance and detonated into nothingness. Doom was gone. The Avengers surged forward, but Strange lowered his hands, trembling. "Where is he?" Captain America demanded. Strange exhaled heavily. "Far away. Very far away." Doom floated in darkness, weightless, directionless, cut off even from his own senses. Then gravity slammed into him like a hammer. He crashed through a canopy of thorned trees, obliterating a crater into ashen soil. Flames licked his cape. His armor sparked. But his systems rebooted. The occult stabilizers restored his senses. Doom rose slowly, surveying the alien landscape. Red clouds churned overhead. The air tasted of iron and death. Strange had not banished him to another region of Earth, nor another dimension he recognized. This was something else. Older, harsher, merciless. In the distance he heard gunfire, screams, a primal, chittering roar. Doom's scanners zoomed in. A cluster of crude human huts were collapsing under the assault of a monstrous, insectoid race. Blade-limbed horrors that moved like nightmares given flesh. Human defenders, armoured but primitive in Doom's eyes, fired rifles desperately. They were clearly losing. "Fascinating," Doom murmured. "Some primitive frontier world beset by alien predators. Strange's spell has cast me far indeed." He turned away. Their deaths were irrelevant. He needed information, resources, materials to rebuild his interdimensional gateway. Then every monstrous head turned toward him. They smelt his power. A Tyranid screeched. Then the entire swarm rushed at Doom, a tidal wave of talons and fanged maws. Doom stopped walking. So be it. His mask illuminated, energy patterns spiraling across his gauntlets. The first Tyranid leapt at him. His repulsor beam blew a hole the size of a small vehicle clean through its chest. It evaporated mid-air. Another lunged, its scythe arms swinging. A neon green shield flared to life, the impact reverberating like thunder. Doom thrust his hand forward. Arcane lightning erupted, threading through 5 Tyranids at once and liquefying them. A larger one, towering, armoured, charged at him, shrieking. Doom strode forward to meet it. Their clash shook the ground. The creature's talons scraped against his armour, but Doom's gauntlet clamped around its throat. He whispered a spell. Green sigils burned through the monster's flesh. It imploded into a collapsing sphere of gore and vapour. The humans stared, stunned, as Doom advanced into the centre of the Tyranid swarm. He raised both hands. Enough. A sphere of crackling emerald energy expanded outward, silent and absolute. Every Tyranid within 100 meters was vaporized in an instant, their bodies disintegrating into ash. The remaining creatures faltered. Doom lifted his hands again, runes spiraling. Pillars of arcane fire erupted beneath the swarm, consuming them in a pyre that turned night to day. Within seconds, all that remained was smoking earth. The last echoes of battle faded. The terrified humans fell to their knees. The smoke had barely begun to settle when Doom's metal boots touched the scorched earth once more. The human settlement, little more than a scattering of shelters, trenches, and half-collapsed barricades looked impossibly small compared to the inferno that had raged around it mere moments earlier. Dozens of settlers stared at him from behind shattered walls and broken fences. They were gaunt, pale, and exhausted, and utterly terrified. A few clutched their makeshift weapons. Others held children behind them like human shields, but none of them dared to run. Doom moved with measured steps toward the central courtyard, his cloak sweeping behind him like a banner of judgment. "Leader," he commanded, his amplified voice echoing across the ruins. "Step forward." A middle-aged man, shaking visibly, did as he was ordered. Doom regarded him like a scientist inspecting a primitive specimen. "State your name." "Garrus, sir." "Garrus," Doom repeated. "You will tell me where and when I am." The settlers exchanged confused glances. Garrus swallowed. "When? I don't understand." Doom's mask tilted slightly. "Answer the question." Garrus nodded frantically. "We are on the frontier world of Decaying's Reach, outer eastern sector, and the date," he paused, thinking. "The current standard year is 998 M41. Doom's systems performed calculations he didn't ask for, analysing the format, comparing it against temporal models. The results were baffling. Alien. This was not simply another planet, but an entirely different universe and timeline. Doom's eyes narrowed behind his mask. "Explain the significance of M41. "It is the 41st Millennium, my lord. The age of the Imperium. We are subjects of the Emperor of mankind." Before Doom could respond, a young woman stepped forward, her voice trembling. Are you one of his angels?" The question caught Doom by surprise, not because of its innocence, but because of the earnest awe behind it. Every terrified face was now watching him with the same desperate hope. Doom's mind shifted gears instantly. They think me divine, or something close enough. Useful. He turned fully toward the crowd. "Yes," he declared, letting his voice boom with regal certainty. "I am a servant of the Emperor." A collective gasp rippled through the settlers. Some fell to their knees. Others pressed their hands to their chests in reverence. Garrus choked out. "We prayed for deliverance. We sent an SOS beacon to the Imperium. We feared no help would arrive in time." Doom folded his arms behind his back, assuming a posture of absolute authority. "Tell me everything about this world, the swarm, and this Emperor you revere." Garrus nodded rapidly. "Decaying's Reach is a small colony world, agrarian mostly. We don't have a defense force, only militia units. When the Tyranids splinter fleet descended, we were overrun within days. We sent the distress call to any nearby Imperium forces, but we didn't think we'd survive long enough for anyone to come." Doom considered this. "Describe these Tyranids." Garrus shuddered. "They are a race of devouring monsters, endless, tireless, unstoppable. They strip entire worlds of life. They grow, evolve, adapt." Doom's eyes gleamed behind the mask. "Fascinating. And the Emperor, what do you know of him?" he continued. Garrus's expression softened into reverence. "Why, he is the divine ruler of all humanity. His light guides us. He blesses us through his angels. Doom's mind ignited with possibilities. A galaxy-spanning empire ruled by a divine emperor. An emperor whose throne I could take. A throne built on absolute authority, myth, and fear. A throne worthy of Doom. His internal monologue was interrupted by a sound, deep and metallic. The ground vibrated beneath his feet. The settlers looked up in unison. "The sky," a child whispered. It was shaking. Not literally, but the atmosphere itself trembled as a massive object tore through the upper layers like a blade through silk. Clouds were churned away, revealing something vast and angular descending from orbit. A colossal warship, blue and gold armor plating glinting in the light. Garrus gasped. An Astartes strike cruiser. Doom watched calmly as the ship burned through entry protocols, atmospheric shielding glowing white-hot around it. His sensors registered radiation spikes, energy tracers, and propulsion technology far beyond anything Earth possessed, but still crude compared to his standards. A dropship launched from the cruiser's underbelly, streaking toward the settlement like a thunderbolt. As it neared the ground, retro thrusters ignited, slowing it until it landed with a seismic thud. The ramp clanged open, and giants emerged. Armored figures nearly 10 feet tall, clad in cobalt blue ceramite with golden insignia. Their helmets glowed with internal optics, and their steps were like the footsteps of a walking tank. Garrus nearly sobbed. The Ultramarines. The Emperor has truly blessed us. Doom studied them intently. Enhanced physiology, genetic augmentation. Impressive, but not beyond my reach. The squad approached, bolters held at rest but ready. Their leader, a towering figure with a white laurel painted on his pauldron, scanned the carnage. He spoke in a voice like a resonant drum. This settlement was under Tyranid assault, yet the Xenos are eradicated. Yes, my lord, Garrus stammered. One of the Emperor's angels. He saved us. The Marines all turned sharply. An Astartes? The sergeant asked. No squad was deployed before our arrival. Garrus pointed. Doom stepped from the smoke-filled ruins like a spectre of metal and sorcery. For a moment, the Ultramarines froze, analyzing him. Their helms clicked with internal vox traffic. Their postures shifted instantly, from wary to hostile. That is no Astartes. Unknown Xenos? Threat level high. The sergeant raised his bolter. Identify yourself. Doom answered by simply existing, straight-backed, regal, and contemptuous. I am Doom. The Marines responded the only way they knew, with bolter fire. Explosive rounds roared toward him. The settlers screamed. Doom raised a single hand. A translucent emerald barrier erupted around him, hexagonal facets shimmering like armor forged from sorcery and science intertwined. The bolter rounds struck the shield, detonating harmlessly in bursts of fire and smoke. One by one, the Marines ceased firing, recognizing the futility. Silence fell. Doom stepped forward, shield still glowing, his voice carrying across the courtyard like the pronouncement of a god. You will kneel, he said, each word dripping with cold promise. You will kneel before doom. For several seconds, nobody moved. The Ultramarines stood in a tight semicircle, armoured titans ready to unleash another barrage. Settlers huddled beneath shattered walls, trembling under the weight of the moment. Dr. Doom, emerald shield glowing across every contour of his metal gauntlet, regarded the Space Marines with a disdain one might reserve for insolent children. The sergeant broke the silence. Fire! Bolters thundered again, explosive, armor-shredding rounds designed to obliterate monsters and heretics alike. They detonated against Doom's shield in frantic succession, each impact a sunburst of shrapnel and fire. Doom didn't budge. He looked almost bored. When the final cartridge clicked empty, Doom lowered his hand. "My patience," he intoned, his voice steady as a monolith. "It wears thin." The nearest Marine charged, a walking fortress of ceramite and transhuman fury. Doom stepped forward to meet him. No spell, no weapon, just his armoured fist. It connected with the Marine's breastplate in a single, perfectly calculated strike. Ceramite cracked. The Marine was hurled backward with enough force to crater a wall, sliding limply to the ground. Two more rushed him from the sides, power swords crackling to life. Doom's eyes flared green. A pulse of sorcery erupted from his armor, silent, invisible, absolute. The blades in the Marine's hands disintegrated into metallic dust, and then their gauntlets followed, and then their arms. The warriors screamed as Doom's entropy spell consumed their limbs like a fast-forwarded decay. They collapsed, writhing in pain. The sergeant roared and opened fire point blank. Doom flicked his wrist. A runic circle formed in the air. The bolter rounds froze mid-flight, suspended like insects in amber. "Your weapons," Doom said, "are crude." He rotated his hand. The round spun in place, glowing red-hot. Then he snapped his fingers. The bullets changed direction and tore into the Marines who fired them. Ceramite ruptured. Blue armor bloomed red. Several titans fell. Only 2 Ultramarines remained, the sergeant and a battle brother who stepped forward to shield his commander. Doom lifted one hand toward the selfless Marine. "You will be useful." A crackling arc of green lightning fired outward, not jagged, but serpentine and precise. It encircled the Marine in a coil of plasma, constricting him. The ceramite armor hissed as Doom's lightning smelted through the joints. The Marine convulsed, dropping to one knee. The sergeant roared, activating his chainsword. He charged at Doom, weapons screaming with adamantine teeth. Doom let him get close. He wanted him to. At the final moment, Doom's gauntlet snapped upward and caught the Marine's wrist. The chainsword whirred inches from Doom's face, showering sparks. Doom didn't flinch. "You have spirit. Admirable." He tightened his grip. The sergeant's genetically enhanced bones snapped beneath Doom's fingers. The chainsword clattered to the dirt. Doom's other hand struck the Marine's helm with a concussive blast, an emerald hammer of magic. The sergeant flew backward 20 meters and landed in a broken heap, armor sparking. Doom turned his gaze to the last Marine, the one writhing in the lightning. You, Doom said, will live for now. With a gesture, the lightning tightened, binding the Marine in a prison of burning sorcerer's chains. Doom extended his arm, telekinetic force lifting the armored giant effortlessly. The settlers watched, breathless and horrified, as Doom dragged the helpless Astartes across the courtyard like a trophy. Doom addressed them without turning back. Your survival is assured, for now. Remember who delivered you. Then he vanished into the smoke, his prisoner floating behind him like a captured titan. The Astartes' ship waited where it had landed, dark, humming and deadly. Doom strode up the ramp, dragging the bound Marine, and boarded the ship. The interior was austere, militaristic, built for warriors twice the size of normal men. Doom's eyes scanned the runes, mechanisms, and cogitators with a predatory interest. This technology, he murmured, is primitive, but functional. He released the bound Marine, letting the warrior collapse in a clang of ceramite. The lightning coil remained, circling him like a serpent ready to strike. Doom approached the cockpit. The controls were massive slabs of metal, made for gauntlets thicker than Doom's armored fingers. But Doom did not need the Imperium's permission. He raised a hand over the console. Latverian technomancy, an art blending sorcery and circuitry, poured from his armor. Dozens of runes flickered across his gauntlet, probing the interfaces, deciphering the machine code, bypassing sanctified logic locks in seconds. The ship's systems came online with a rumble. Doom smiled. Child's play. Then he noticed something. The ship's internal sensors shimmered in warning, an active vox link to the cruiser above. You are speaking to your masters. Doom placed a hand on the panel. Not anymore. A pulse of green energy surged through the console. Vox relays melted. Transmitters cracked. The ship went silent, invisible to its parent ship. Doom returned to the captive. The Ultramarine glared up at him, helmet cracked, blood trickling down his chin. You, the Marine growled, his voice like gravel. What manner of sorcery? Doom raised a finger, silencing him with a mild shock of mystic electricity. What I am, Doom said, is beyond your comprehension. He crouched beside the warrior. But now, I will understand what you are. Doom's gauntlet projected scalpel-like beams of green energy. With chilling precision, he began severing the ceramite armor from the Marine's body, lifting entire plates like petals from a steel flower. The Marine struggled, but Doom's lightning coil burned him into stillness. Piece by piece, the armor came away, revealing the transhuman flesh beneath. Dense, corded muscle, reinforced bone, scar tissue like volcanic rock, subdermal implants, additional organs. A fascinating creature, Doom mused. Half flesh, half machine, a construct of biology pushed far beyond its natural limits. He tapped one of the Marine's exposed ribs. The bone rang like tempered steel. Crude compared to my own augmentations, he continued, but not without merit. The Marine snarled, veins bulging under his skin. Heretic! Doom tilted his head slightly, as if considering. He stood and returned to the cockpit. "Let us see where your masters keep their treasures." He activated the navigation systems. A map flickered into being. Stars, subsectors, routes marked with glowing runes. Doom scanned it. Then he saw it. A world marked in sigils of red. A world that pulsed with industrial energy signatures, exotic materials, and enormous manufactorums. A label burned beneath it. Forge World Vernix 9. Doom's eyes lit with cold satisfaction. A world of smiths, factories. A pause. A world with resources to build my empire. He plotted a course. The engines roared. The ship lifted from the surface like a rising storm, and moments later it shot into the sky, silent, undetected, vanishing into the void before the strike cruiser above even realized something was amiss. Doom stood at the cockpit's glass canopy, watching the world beneath him shrink into insignificance. Behind him, the bound and half-dissected space marine struggled for breath. Doom didn't turn as he spoke. "Your Imperium will learn to fear the name Doom." The stars stretched into silver lines. The engines growled. Dr. Doom, exiled tyrant of Earth, self-proclaimed servant to no one, flew toward the heart of a galaxy built on war, and he intended to remake it. The void rippled as the ship pierced the upper atmosphere of Vernix 9. Red clouds swirled beneath a thick metallic haze, glowing with the furnace fires of countless manufactorums. Steam vents hissed across the surface like the lungs of a dragon, and the ground below pulsed with industrial light, casting elongated shadows across the jagged metal spires that clawed at the blood-red sky. Dr. Doom stood at the cockpit, the emerald glow of his armor reflecting off the viewport. The half-stripped space marine groaned behind him, bound and ensnared in coils of burning green energy that pulsed in rhythm with Doom's heartbeat. Doom's gaze swept across the surface, sensors scanning for a suitable landing point. "Interesting," he muttered. "A factory world, yet mostly abandoned, or perhaps underutilized." Through the ship's viewport, Doom identified a structure of immense scale, a colossal, smoke-choked factory complex surrounded by jagged pylons and massive cranes. It pulsed with the latent energy of arcane machinery, fused with the technology of the Adeptus Mechanicus. Power conduits ran like veins, sparks arcing from vents in the upper towers. The ship descended silently, landing atop a reinforced platform that had once served as a landing dock. The landing shock barely rattled the building's foundations, testament to Doom's mastery of both technology, magic, and gravity manipulation. He strode down the ramp, dragging the captive space marine behind him as the wind whipped his cloak into a banner of absolute authority. The factory loomed like a cathedral of industry. Rusted metal walls bore faded red markings, sigils of the Omnissiah, half eroded by centuries of neglect. Doom's gauntlet glowed as he assessed the structure's integrity. "Let us begin," he murmured, releasing a subtle pulse from his armor that immobilized the marine. Then, raising both hands, he muttered an incantation in Latverian, a soft harmonic chant that resonated within the marine's mind. The warrior's eyes fluttered, lids heavy, until he collapsed into a deep, unnatural sleep. Not dead, yet, but utterly at Doom's mercy. The tyrant's gaze swept over the factory's interior as he stepped into the main assembly hall. Rusted assembly lines stretched for kilometers, punctuated by dormant servo arms, welding rigs, and the skeletal remnants of machinery once used to forge tanks, weapons, and servitors. Doom's fingers traced the runes of machinery, tracing their circuits and conduits, his mind simultaneously calculating structural tolerances, energy flows. Primitive, he muttered, but adaptable. He circled the unconscious Space Marine, lifting the warrior into a makeshift die of metal and ancient servitor scaffolding. With precise gestures, Doom invoked a series of complex enchantments, projecting energy around the Marine. Holographic readouts of muscle density, skeletal reinforcement, and subdermal implants shimmered in the air. Neural mapping glowed across the Space Marine's brain, revealing synaptic enhancements, reflex amplifiers, and combat programming. Every layer of ceramite armor was meticulously scanned, analyzed, and reconstructed in Doom's memory banks. Hours passed. The factory hummed, as if aware of the presence of a new master. Doom worked with methodical obsession. Servo arms whirred to life under his control, welding, reforging, and modifying machinery with arcane precision. He tested alloys against his repulsors, enchanted them with glyphs to reinforce their durability, and imbued the first batch of plates with energy-absorbing wards. Doom combined his knowledge of Latverian metallurgy with reverse-engineered Astartes ceramite, creating armor that was simultaneously resilient to bolters, thermal lances, and sorcery. Through the night, Doom dissected the Space Marine's physiology. All were catalogued and adapted into designs for a new legion. From this hybrid of flesh and ceramite, Doom envisioned an army, relentless, indomitable, and utterly loyal. By dawn, the first batch of new Doombots began to take form, standing taller than men, but smaller than a full Astartes. Their plating shimmered cobalt blue, engraved with Latverian runes of power. Magitech's systems hummed in unison, the green glow of arcane circuitry pulsing through their frames like veins of liquid emerald fire. Each Doombot's design mirrored the combat efficiency of a Space Marine, but with enhancements Doom alone could engineer. Shields that generated layered energy barriers, gauntlets that fused repulsor energy with spell weaving, and neural cores capable of independent tactical reasoning, yet fully obedient to the will of Doom. He stood back and surveyed his army, the first batch of 5 prototypes forming a perfect phalanx. Their eyes glowed like dying stars, and their servos clicked in perfect harmony. "You will serve me," Doom intoned, his voice amplified across the factory and through the very soul of the machines. "And you will know no loyalty but to me." A pulse of techno-magic flowed from Doom, reaching into the neural cores of each new Doombot. Their heads snapped toward the unconscious Space Marine, sensors locking onto the genetically enhanced warrior that had once defied their master. The coils of green energy that had held the captive now flared, feeding Doom's command. "Execute," Doom commanded, his tone absolute and unwavering. The first Doombot advanced. Its hand glowed with repulsor energy, striking the Space Marine's neck in a precise arc. Bone crunched, synthetic tendons shredded. The warrior convulsed, helpless, under the combined might of techno-magic and brutal physical force. One by one, the Doombots delivered blows calibrated to end the Marine's life in a matter of seconds. Efficient, merciless, perfect. As the last strike landed, the Space Marine's neck cracked. Doom watched silently, analysing every aspect, committing each reaction and each defense response to memory banks that no human or Astartes mind could fathom. When the deed was done, the Doombots turned in perfect unison to face Doom, awaiting further command. The factory rang with the low hum of power conduits, the clatter of machinery, and the faint hiss of cooling energy shields. "Excellent," Doom said. "One life extinguished, 1,000 secrets claimed, a legion reborn." He strode past the dead Marine, hands clasped behind his back. "This is only the beginning." Through the towering windows of the factory, Doom gazed across the smog-choked horizon. Vernix 9 stretched endlessly, a network of forge complexes and armories brimming with potential. The Adeptus Mechanicus would not know of his presence until it was too late. The newly created Doombots, standing taller than men and bristling with weaponry, shield emitters, and arcane engravings, shifted in formation behind him. Doom's armor flared as he raised his hand. "Soon," he whispered, "the galaxy will kneel. The Imperium, the Emperor, his angels, none shall withstand Doom." The furnaces of Forge World Vernix 9 roared like the hearts of slumbering titans. Doom stood atop a gantry high above the main assembly hall, his cloak billowing in the metallic winds. Below him, entire platoons of Doombots marched in perfect formation, their plating glowing with emerald circuitry, their movements synchronized with machine precision. Where once the Mechanicus had toiled in drudgery and monotony, Doom's presence had ignited the Manufactorum into a storm of activity. Conveyor lines screamed back to life, automated forges belched molten metal. Looming servo arms moved with renewed purpose, reforged by Doom's techno-magic into limbs of occult precision. Vernix 9 was transforming, and Doom was its new god. Behind him, the 5 prototype Doombots, the firstborn of his new legion, knelt in perfect submission. "Rise," Doom commanded. They did so in flawless unison. "It is time," he said, raising one gauntleted hand. The lights in the hall flickered. Once, twice, before stabilizing as the entire factory's noospheric network bent to his will. "I have extracted all I require from this world's data streams. This Omnissiah's priests are predictable, devout. They will be easily deceived." On the die behind him, a glowing holographic structure blossomed like a blooming steel flower. Countless forge worlds across the sector, their names etched in red runes. Vermilion Theta, Rhizas Delta, Omega Lux 14. Dozens more pulsed with cold light. Each was a bastion of this machine god. Each would soon belong to Doom. "Prepare the translocators," Doom said. A chorus of metallic voices answered in perfect resonance. "By your will." The teleportation device that Doom had reconstructed from scavenged Mechanicus tech hummed like a caged beast. Runic sigils spun in the air, Emerald lightning streaked across the steel floor. Doom stepped into the center of the circle, his armor radiating a low, thunderous hum. "Spread to the worlds marked here," he said, projecting a noospheric pulse into the Legion's mind. Images, coordinates, map overlays, everything transferred in microseconds. You will enter their sanctums, their temples, their data spires, their noospheric relays. He lifted one hand. A green spark leapt from his fingers. "And you will be my voice." The teleportarium exploded with light. In an instant, Doom's upgraded Doombots vanished across the stars. The skies above Vermilion Theta were filled with ash storms and floating cathedrals of steel. Mag trains roared along suspended rails. Skitarii patrols marched in rigid formations. In the heart of the High Fabricator's sanctum, the air shimmered. A Doombot appeared in a pillar of emerald radiance. The red-robed tech priests froze. Their bionic limbs twitched. Vox relics sputtered. Their eyes widened behind glowing optics. Designation unknown. Pattern unidentifiable. Omnissiah preserve us. The Doombot stepped forward as one, emitting a pulse of machine language so pure, so mathematically elegant, that it tunneled straight into the noosphere. Binary echoed through every circuit. "Greetings, children of the Omnissiah." The tech priests dropped to their knees as the noosphere vibrated with a tone not heard since the dark age of technology. Rich, complex, layered with recursive logic far beyond human manufacture. One Magos whispered, trembling. Are these emissaries of the machine god himself?" The Doombots projected schematics, towering constructs of metal and green fire, hybrid repulsor engines, arcane conductive plating, neural cores capable of multi-layered combat predictions. Designs beyond anything the Mechanicus had catalogued. Designs that Doom had crafted. A second pulse echoed through every data spire. "These patterns are gifts from the true path of ascendant logic. Build, produce, perfect." The tech priest screamed an ecstatic binary praise. The air above Rysas Delta shimmered with radiation storms. Titans slumbered in armored vaults beneath kilometers of adamantium. Arc reactors throbbed like the heartbeats of metal giants. When the Doombot materialized inside the Titan Forge Temple, the ambient servitors immediately knelt, unable to process what their logic cores interpreted as perfected design. Tech priests rushed forward, chanting canticles of awe. Holy patterns, impossible craftsmanship, divine symmetry. The Doombot extended hands that glowed with Doom's hybrid sorcery. Streams of glowing schematics poured into the priest's data jacks. Reforged plasma reactors, warded shielding, repulsor cannons capable of shearing a knight in half. The Magos Dominus trembled, mechadendrites twitching spastically as the data poured into him. Such brilliance. This cannot be Archmagos Belisarius Karl's work. A Doombot emitted a single correcting tone. Negative. The designs are from beyond even him. Obey and ascend. And the priests did. On the Forge World Omega Lux 14, the Doombot materialized inside an orbital manufactorum the size of a small moon. Sparks fell like stars from automated assembly lines. Skitarii cohorts turned as one, targeting the intruder with galvanic rifles. Before they could fire, The Doombot released a noospheric wave that hit them like a tidal surge. Every cybernetic system within 10 kilometers was locked. The Fabricator General of Omegalux 14 stared in disbelief as the Doombot approached his command station. Their voices surged into the noosphere in a symphony of perfect logic. The Omnissiah reveals new holy designs. Implement them immediately. Resistance is irrational. The Fabricator General trembled and bowed. Across the sector, the response was identical. Mechanicus leaders, some ancient, some barely more than augmented corpses, stood trembling as a Doombot delivered the blueprints for Doom's new legion. They saw divine geometry. They saw sacred mathematics. They saw the impossible beauty of Doom's technological genius, refined, perfected, and amplified through stolen noospheric protocols. They saw godhood. None saw the trap. None saw the subtle subroutines embedded in every schematic, in every data stream, hidden commandments, servitor-grade obedience protocols rewritten into Manufactorum logic, Latverian override sequences disguised as Omnissiah canticles. Each Forge World believed they were creating God-blessed warriors. In truth, they were building Doom's new army, and they were building it willingly. Back on Vernix 9, Doom strode between assembly lines that thundered like ancient war drums. Every forge, every crane, every servo arm had been reforged according to his will. The factory floor was a storm of motion. Flames roared from plasma furnaces. Molten metal poured into arcane casts. Dozens of Doombots were assembled every minute. Frames lifted by gravitic clamps. Plates hammered into place by runic hammers. Neural cores installed with green lightning. Each new Doombot stood taller than the last. Stronger, faster, even more obedient. And Doom was not working alone. Through the noosphere, he watched dozens of other Forge Worlds begin construction. Every world followed the designs with religious fervor, believing they were manifesting the will of the Omnissiah. In truth, they were manifesting Doom. Hololithic projections flickered across his gauntlet as updates streamed in from the sector. Vermilion Theta, production initiated, first 1,000 units nearing completion. Rysas Delta, holy pattern integrated, armored divisions restructured according to divine symmetry. Omega Lux 14, neural cores achieving unparalleled efficiency, Titanic-scale units theoretically possible. Doom smiled beneath his mask. They worship the very tools of their destruction. He raised a hand. A microsecond later, every Doombot across the growing legion turned their heads in unison. Hundreds on Vernix 9, thousands on the distant Forge Worlds, all awaiting his command. Legion, Doom said, his voice resonating through the noosphere like a god rising from slumber. The galaxy sleeps under the arrogance of the Imperium. They believe themselves eternal, immutable. They are wrong. Thunder boomed above the factory as if in answer. Soon, the angels of the Emperor will learn the truth of their insignificance. A new age dawns. He extended his arms. The entire sector's manufactorums pulsed in response. An age forged not in faith, but in perfection. The furnaces erupted in emerald fire. The ground shook. Storms of sparks whirled through the air like falling meteors. On a dozen planets, Forge Worlds labored night and day, forging thousands upon thousands of upgraded Doombots, each one more powerful than the last, each one a weapon, each one a soldier, each one a harbinger of doom. "Let the galaxy tremble," Doom whispered, "for doom has come." The furnaces roared for the last time. On Vernix 9, the thunder of industry died in a single synchronized breath as every assembly line, every servo crane, every manufactorum engine froze mid-motion. Then the eyes of 10,000 newly forged Doombots ignited in emerald fire. Doom stood at the heart of the assembly hall, a titan of iron and supremacy. His armor glowed with authority as he surveyed his creations. "Initiate planetary integration." The Legion moved. Magos Prime Epsilon 7 never saw it coming. He was deep in communion with the noosphere when the first alert burst across the data stream. Flashes of green, system overrides, encrypted commands he had never authorized. He leaned in, trying to parse the corruption. Too late. The door to his sanctum blew inward. Doombots marched through the smoke in perfect formation, their footfalls ringing like war drums. Plasma bolts tore through the air, vaporizing robed tech adepts. Bionics sparked. Mechadendrites flailed. Demagos reached for his command staff. A gauntleted hand of metal crushed it effortlessly. Another Doombot lifted Demagos off the ground, fingers closing around his throat with hydraulic inevitability. "Critical anomaly protocol." His words dissolved into static as the machine twisted, snapping steel, bone, and spine alike. Across the planet, the rebellion lasted only minutes. Skitarii cohorts attempted to form firing lines. Doombots tore straight through them, ignoring lasfire that sparked harmlessly across enchanted Latverian plating. Entire manufactorum wings erupted in coordinated explosions, perfectly calculated to eliminate command nodes without harming production infrastructure. By the end of the hour, every priest, tech adept, servitor overseer, and Skitarii officer lay dead, and the planet knelt to doom. The second world died to mathematics. On Vermilion Theta, where the cathedrals of steel hovered above rivers of molten ore, the machine cult reeled at the sudden collapse of their noospheric channels. What they mistook for Omnissiah-blessed data was nothing but Doom's override code, spreading, infecting, substituting. By the time they recognized the truth, their manufactorum doors had sealed them inside. Doombots strode through the corridors of the High Fabricator's tower, moving with mechanical grace, dodging gravhammers and arc welders with inhuman speed. They reached the central core and projected a command pulse. "Kneel!" The tech priests screamed as their augmetics seized. Their lenses flickered. Mechadendrites curled involuntarily as override tendrils infiltrated their systems. Some begged, some cursed, some tried to claw their implants out of their own skulls. None succeeded. Moments later, the chamber went silent. A single Doombot approached the main cogitator shrine and placed its hand upon the altar. A torrent of green fire surged into the systems, rewriting every layer of Vermilion Theta's logic engines. The forges restarted. They now served Doom. The Titan Forge Temple fought harder. Rysas Delta erupted in open war as Skitarii legions formed ranks at the feet of dormant titans. Macro cannons spat fire. Arc rifles lanced out in coordinated volleys. Entire maniples surged forward in practiced formation. They were magnificent. They were hopeless. Doombots descended from the smoke like avatars of cold perfection. Repulsor engines flared. Doom's sorcery crackled across their plating. They hit the Skitarii ranks like missiles, smashing, tearing, annihilating. Ballistic arcs were predicted in microseconds. Countermeasures adapted instantly. Every attack the Mechanicus attempted was met with flawless, mathematical counterforce. A Titan awakened, a Warlord-class engine rising like a god of metal. Cannons hummed with killing light. A single Doombot pointed at it. Every other Doombot aimed upward. A barrage of emerald beams tore through the Titan's knee joint, then its reactor shielding. The war machine toppled, a mountain of metal collapsing in a scream of tortured servos. By nightfall, Rysas Delta burned, its titans fallen, its priests slaughtered, its forges seized. 3 worlds were now Doom's. 9 more would follow. One by one, the Forge worlds fell. Omega Lux 14 was taken when its orbital manufactorum turned its own defense grid inward. Delta Gamma collapsed after a Doombot battalion seized its reactor core and shut down every cybernetic priest in mid-prayer. Metallon Secundus held out for 3 days, unleashing legions of Castellan robots, but the Doombots infiltrated their command network and turned the ancient war machines against their masters. When the final Fabricator Locum died beneath a hail of emerald plasma, Doom's voice echoed across the seized noosphere. Your god has abandoned you. Your machines belong to Doom. 12 Forge worlds, each armed, each rich with industry and war material, each producing more Doombots by the hour. The galaxy did not yet realize it, but a new empire had been born in silence. An empire of metal, an empire of logic, an empire of doom. On Vernix 9, the throne of his new dominion, Doom stood atop the central spire as the sun bled its red light across a horizon filmed with storm clouds of smoke and steel. Below him, the plain stretched endlessly, covered in an ocean of metal bodies. Tens of thousands of Doombots stood in perfect formation, their eyes glowing like stars in the twilight. Not just an army, a machine of war, a weapon shaped like a legion. Doom raised his hand, a single gesture. A storm of emerald energy surged outward, linking every unit in the Legion, weaving them into a lattice of shared targeting and tactical subroutines. The entire army inhaled as one. Behold, Doom murmured, the children of Latveria, born anew. He turned toward the noospheric conduit towers, rising behind him. The one structure the Mechanicus had built well enough to survive Doom's purge. Thick cables ran from the tower into the spire. Doom stepped forward. With 12 planets sworn to my dominion, with thousands of perfected soldiers at my command, the Imperium still believes itself untouchable. He placed his armored gauntlet upon the noospheric interface. A storm of light erupted. Data screamed into him. Schematics, maps, production logs, encrypted Mechanicus histories, forbidden designs, everything. Knowledge that could drown a mortal mind. But Doom was no mere mortal. The emerald glow around him intensified until the entire tower vibrated. He whispered, voice echoing through every conquered world. Before I declare open war upon this galaxy, I must know everything. Doom opened his mind, and the noosphere obeyed. The noospheric tower thrummed like a caged star. Doom stood alone in the chamber. Alone, yet surrounded by the whispering ghosts of 1,000,000 machine spirits and the encoded memories of an empire over 10,000 years old. Streams of data spilled in spiraling arcs around him, emerald lightning reflecting off the plates of his armor as the conduit plunged its knowledge into his mind. He saw the wars, he saw legions, he saw the truth behind a regime that had hidden its wounds for millennia. The Imperium of Man, ostensibly eternal, unbreakable, revealed itself to Doom as a fractured, shuddering colossus, barely held together by terror and tradition. Then the data shifted, and Doom beheld the warp, a living storm, a sea of thought and nightmare, a reflection of mortal will and mortal madness. It pulsed in his vision, colorless, shapeless, and boundless, a dimension where emotion became reality, where gods fed upon the dreams of the weak, and where the Imperium fought a perpetual losing battle. Doom's eyes narrowed behind his mask. "So," he murmured, "this galaxy wages battle not only against itself, but against its own ungoverned psyche." The noosphere continued its cascade. The betrayal of Horus unfolded before him, brother turning against brother. The galaxy bathed in treachery and fire. Doom watched the siege of Terra unfold in crystalline precision. Titans clashing, legions burning, the Emperor broken, but unyielding upon his throne. 1,000,000 tragedies revealed themselves in perfect detail, and Doom absorbed them all. When the vision dimmed, he stood motionless, his cloak hanging in the hushed stillness of the tower. A lesser mind would have been shattered. Doom only exhaled, the faintest curl of interest touching his tone. The warp. A realm shaped by will, by dominance. His gauntlet tightened over the conduit, green fire rippling from his fingers. Fascinating. His voice grew softer, deadlier, and exploitable. The emerald storm dissipated. Doom turned away. He had learned what he needed, for now. On the outlying mining world of Metallon Secundus, the ground trembled under the thunder of ramshackle engines and guttural war cries. Smoke belched from crude exhaust stacks. Crates of ammunition, mostly stolen, some simply detonating spontaneously, rattled against the sides of jury-built warbikes. The Orks had come. A tide of green-skinned brutality poured across the slag plains, waving chainswords constructed from scrap, firing guns assembled by logic-defying intuition. Their laughter boomed across the valley as they spotted the gleam of metal ranks awaiting them. An army of doombots, unmoving, unbreakable, unimpressed. The first Ork, a hulking brute with an engine block strapped to his back, lifted his cleaver and roared. He never finished. Emerald plasma sheared his torso in half, the blast vaporizing ribcage and spine in a single perfect line. The Doombots advanced. They did not sprint, they did not shout, they simply moved, a synchronized phalanx of annihilation. Ork warbikes crashed against them like waves on a cliff. Crude weapons bounced harmlessly off adaptive plating. Jagged cleavers shattered against invincible alloy. Doombot struck with mathematical precision. Punches that caved in skulls, beams that carved through mobs, repulsor bursts that hurled the greenskins into smoking heaps. A knob bellowed as he swung a chain axe the size of a man. A Doombot caught it, snapped it, and crushed the Orc's skull like wet fruit. The Horde faltered. For perhaps the first time in their lives, the Orcs felt something unfamiliar. But then, a column of green lightning tore open the air. The world trembled. Doom stepped forth. His arrival was not heralded by fanfare or machine chant. It was simply an inevitable event, like gravity or entropy or doom itself. His cape cracked behind him, scorched by the energies of teleportation. His armor glowed like the heart of a dying star. The Orcs stared. Doom raised one hand. "Creatures," he said, his voice amplified to echo across the valley. "Your existence is an insult to structure, to intellect, and to order. You are chaos without purpose, destruction without vision." He thrust his palm forward. Emerald fire erupted. Dozens of Orcs dissolved into drifting ash. A warboss the size of a tank roared in fury and charged. Each step made the earth quake. He swung a hammer cobbled together from adamantium scrap and raw idiocy. Doom caught the hammer mid-swing. The shockwave cracked open the ground for 30 meters. "You presume," Doom growled, "to challenge a monarch." His other hand ignited with sorcery. Runes spiraled outward, wrapping the warboss in chains of molten emerald. The creature howled, fighting with the strength of over a dozen men. Doom clenched his fist. The warboss imploded in a sphere of burning green light, reduced to smouldering vapor. Silence. The remaining Orcs hesitated. Doom extended both arms, gathering emerald power until the very clouds recoiled. "You crave battle," he declared. "Very well." The world disappeared in green fire. The blast expanded in a perfect circle, an expanding shell of energy that swept across the plains, erasing Orc, vehicle, scrap, and crater alike. When the light faded, only glassed earth and drifting smoke remained. The Doombots knelt. Doom surveyed the devastation with a cold, analytical stare. Brutish, unrefined, wasteful. A hint of contempt sharpened his tone. These creatures infest the galaxy. That will not do. He turned away as the Doombots rose behind him. The Orcs had been a distraction, a test, a measurement of how primitive savagery would fare against Latverian precision. They had failed. Later, in the solitude of the Vernix 9 spire, Doom gazed once more into the depths of the Nusferic data stream. His hands folded behind him, cape billowing in the machine-forged wind. "The warp," he murmured again. "The heresy." The Emperor on his decaying throne. Pieces began to align in his mind. Slowly, deliberately, inevitably. 12 worlds, he said, are merely the foundation. The spire of Vernix 9 was silent save for the low hum of processors and the faint whisper of cables shifting like metallic serpents. Doom stood at its apex, a solitary figure amid titanic conduits of machine light. 12 forge worlds were bent to his will, each one humming with the rhythm of calculated dominion. Production quotas had surged, Nusferic channels pulsed under his control. The galaxy, fractured, diseased and chaotic, lay before him like a puzzle, begging for the touch of a merciless intellect such as his. "Order," Doom murmured, his voice a note of iron in the gloom. Must be imposed. As if in answer, the newspheric column beside him flashed crimson. Intrusion alert. Unidentified vessel. Origin, non-Imperium. Vector, approaching Metallon Secundus orbit. Doom turned. Show me. A holographic sphere ignited in the air. The vessel was small, sleek, and disturbingly elegant. Its hull sculpted rather than built, its angles flowing like the curves of a predatory bird in flight. It did not match any Imperium pattern. Doom studied it for a second before recognizing it. Eldar. Doombots across the system stirred at once, activated by Doom's command without a word spoken. Intercept, he ordered. In the void above Metallon Secundus, a dark lattice unfolded. A net of armored bodies, emerald-lit visors, and cold intention. Hundreds of Doombots arranged themselves in geometric formations, their repulsor drives silent in the vacuum of space. The alien craft shimmered into view, darting like a blade between debris fields. It tried to veer away, but Doom's order hit the network. Every Doombot reacted in perfect unison. Emerald beams lashed out across space, carving through the ship's delicate wing-like structures. The craft spun violently, its wraithbone hull screaming as fractures spiderwebbed across its surface. With precise bursts of repulsors, the Doombots closed in. They seized the crippled vessel and forced it downward, dragging it into the atmosphere. The burning streak cut across the skies of Metallon Secundus. It crashed into the plains with a sound like the roar of a dying star. Moments later, Doom stepped from a portal of green lightning, cape snapping behind him as the air distorted with the raw force of his arrival. His Doombots ringed the shattered vessel. Open it. Metal groaned under mechanical claws. Wraithbone cracked and protested as the Doombots tore the doors apart like paper. Light spilled out, misty, ethereal, and faintly shimmering with psychic residue. Inside stood a tall figure in flowing robes of spectral blue, a still crackling witch staff in hand. Two other Eldar knelt behind her, wounded, their armor scorched. The lead figure lifted her head. Her eyes widened. "You," she whispered, voice shaking with disgust and awe. "You are no Necron." Doom tilted his head. "Explain." "The shape, the metal shell, the cold within you. I thought you one of the silent ones." "I am Doom," he replied simply. The Farseer spat at the ground. "A man, one of your brutish kind, draped in pretend power." Doom's voice remained even. "You speak of power." His armor plates shifted, scanning beams flickering. "And yet yours radiates from you like a furnace." The Farseer stiffened. Doom extended his hand. The air around the Eldar distorted. Green sigils formed in humming geometric spirals across Doom's gauntlet. Invisible tendrils of force lashed outward, not sorcery alone, but a synthesis of technology and dominion. A hybrid of Latverian mastery and the raw data he had harvested from the noosphere. The Farseer gasped as her aura flared. "No, monkey, you do not understand." "You are wrong," Doom said. "I will understand everything." The runes tightened, her psychic field wavered, flickering like a damaged lumen globe. The two surviving Eldar at her side collapsed, clutching their temples as Doom's device probed deeper, peeling apart layers of psychic shielding. "You wield a faculty the Imperium fears," Doom said calmly. "A connection to this warp, a glimpse beyond the lattice of causality." The Farseer screamed as emerald lightning wrapped around her, snagging her spirit as easily as her flesh. "To waste such potential," Doom murmured, "would be inefficient." With a twist of his gauntlet, the siphoning began. The Farseer convulsed as radiant threads tore free from her, shimmering strands of psychic essence pulled like molten gold from her mind. Her scream became a keening wail that warped the air itself. Her two companions shriveled first, eyes dimming, their skin sinking as their life force was drained into the emerald vortex. Their armor clattered as their bodies collapsed inward, reduced to pale, brittle husks. The Farseer fought. Her aura flared in brilliant colors: violet, azure, ultraviolet energies normally invisible to mortal senses. She tried to wrench free, tried to sever her own connection to the warp rather than let it be harvested. But Doom's will was like a hammer, and her resistance was glass. "You cannot contain what you take," she choked out. "You will be consumed." "Doom," he replied, "is not consumed." The final surge hit. Her body arced one last time. Then the light left her. Her form collapsed, empty, pale and weightless, a withered shell that cracked as it hit the slag beneath. The stream of power rushed into Doom, spiraling around his armor, sinking through his circuits, threading into the very marrow of his being. Runes pulsed across his gauntlets. His cloak flared outward, caught in winds no machine or planet had made. Doom's eyes glowed brighter than molten emerald. Then he saw. Not fully or clearly, but something shifted behind the veil. A ripple of possibility, branching futures, faint echoes of what might be. Threads of war, fire, opportunity, and domination whispering beyond the horizon. He stood perfectly still for several heartbeats. Then his mask curled. Not a smile of joy, a smile of understanding, a smile of possession, a smile of doom. He turned away from the corpses without another glance. "The galaxy," Doom said softly, "offers me gifts." His Doombots fell into formation as he walked back toward the teleportation beacon, the planes now silent behind him. "Now," Doom murmured, emerald fire still flickering along his gauntlet. "Now I shall decide how best to use them." The towers of Vernix 9 hummed with a new and dangerous rhythm. Not the rhythm of industry or of machines. A psychic rhythm. Faint at first, like distant thunder rattling in the bones of the world rather than its sky, but growing stronger with each passing hour. A frequency that the Imperium had spent millennia fearing, hunting, and purging wherever it stirred. Now it emanated from a single figure standing alone atop the spire, Victor von Doom. Green fire crackled faintly around his gauntlets as he moved his hands through the air, tracing sigils invisible to any mortal sensor. The wind curled around his cape as though bowing. The noospheric lightning around him pulsed in sync with the new aura that radiated from his armor. It had been days since he consumed the Farseer's essence. Days since Doom's mind expanded beyond its already superhuman bounds. Days since something new had awakened, something dangerous, ancient, and something the galaxy was not prepared for. Doom had spent those days in absolute silence. No commands issued, no decrees spoken, no invasions launched. Only stillness, only study, only mastery. Doombots lined the spires like statues, unmoving as their sovereign worked. Energy swirled around him in a maelstrom of emerald, violet, and spectral blue, colours not meant for real space. Vortices flickered, echoes shimmered. Runes burned their patterns into the metal beneath his feet. Doom extended his hand, fingers tightening. A ripple tore through the air, silent, deadly, and absolute. The world stuttered for a fraction of a second, as though time itself bowed under pressure. Then he saw. Not clearly, not wholly, but the fog parted. 1,000 potential futures brushed against his mind. Armies marching, stars dying, empires kneeling, machines rising, chains breaking, and worlds burning. Paths intertwined like rivers of molten iron, endless and shifting. Doom gazed upon them without blinking. Where other minds would have shattered, his only sharpened further. He stepped forward, eyes glowing like twin green suns. So, this is the tapestry of possibility, Doom murmured. He raised both hands, pulling the visions closer, bending them, analysing them like equations. Each thread trembled, revealing consequences, opportunities, and weaknesses. Doom's voice was low, analytical, and hungry. Patterns, probabilities, imperfections. His cape snapped in the psychic gale. Even fate will be conquered. The futures shifted, then constricted suddenly around one point. Something vast, something violent, something triumphant. Doom froze. The vision lasted only a heartbeat, but it was enough. Behind his mask, his lips curled. "Of course," Doom whispered. "Of course." The psychic storm died instantly, sucked back into his armor with a thunderclap. The spire lights flickered. The Doombots reactivated, turning their gaze to him. He said nothing. He didn't need to. His plan was formed, and it was flawless. But Doom was not the only one who had been watching. His new aura, brilliant, hungry, impossibly disciplined, it bled into the fabric of the warp like a blade pushing through soft flesh. And the warp had noticed. Far away, beyond the veil, something stirred. 4 presences, colossal and hideous in their majesty, twisted toward the anomaly that had just sparked into their domain. They tasted intellect. They tasted fury. They tasted ambition, great enough to rival their own. And they smiled. Whispers rippled through Doom's mind as he stood upon the tower. At first they were faint, like echoes heard underwater. Then sharper, closer. "You seek dominion," hissed a voice like boiling blood. "You seek perfection," cooed a voice made of silk and knives. "You seek knowledge," droned a voice like wheezing gears. "You seek change," laughed a voice like breaking glass. The air shook around him. Doom did not flinch. Psychic winds howled, runes flared, metal bent under their pressure. Still, Doom stood unmoved, "You presume," he said calmly, "to speak to doom unbidden." The voices twined. "You wield power not meant for mortals. You stand on the threshold of the infinite. You hunger for the galaxy. We can give it to you." A lesser man would have knelt. A lesser mind would have cracked. Doom remained as he was. Upright, proud, eternal. "And what," Doom asked, "would you demand in return?" The warp shuddered with laughter. "Nothing you would miss. A fragment of obedience. A sliver of devotion. A moment of surrender." Doom said nothing. He did not accept. He did not refuse. He merely considered, and that alone caused the warp to tremble with anticipation. "We offer you a throne, built on the bones of the corpse god," the voices whispered together. "Come to us, step through the veil, claim what the stars deny you." A rift tore open before him. Green lightning spiraled outward, warping the air, peeling it apart like stretching sinew. The rift pulsed with raw immaterium, a swirling vortex of light, flame, shadow, and madness. Doombot stepped forward as if to intervene. Doom raised a hand. They stopped instantly. He gazed into the crackling abyss. "You believe," he said, "that Doom requires your gifts." The warp pulsed. "You believe," he continued, "that Doom fears your realms." Flames darker than night billowed from the rift. Voices crackled. Entities strained against the veil. "And yet," Doom finished, voice rising to a titan's resonance, "Doom walks where he chooses." His cape flared, his armor glowed, and Victor Von Doom stepped into the warp. For a moment, just a moment, there was disorientation. Colors without name, sounds without a source, shapes without geometry. Then Doom's senses reasserted themselves. His vision returned. Balance stabilized. Power surged. The storm parted, and there they were. 4 shadows of impossible scale, 4 nightmares carved into the shape of divinity. 4 gods that had broken civilizations and devoured empires. Khorne, a mountain of brass and fury. Slaanesh, serpent of beauty and horror. Nurgle, the rotting colossus of bloated benevolence. Tzeentch, a shifting flame crowned with 1,000 watching eyes. They circled him like predators circling their kill. Doom lifted his chin, not in fear or even in awe, but purely in acknowledgement. The shadows trembled. He was smiling behind the mask, and the warp shook with what might have been delight or terror. The warp seethed. It twisted around Doom like a storm of living color, writhing with impossible shapes and shrieking echoes of souls long devoured. Every breath was a tectonic shift of psychic gravity. Every heartbeat cracked like thunder inside the living dimension. And still, Victor Von Doom stood unmoved. Before him loomed the 4. Khorne's brass form towered like a volcano of hatred made flesh, rivers of blood steaming around his colossal hooves. Slaanesh's beauty shimmered like a sick dream, flesh shifting from angelic to monstrous in every blink. Nurgle's swelling bulk oozed rot and life and death in equal measure. And Tzeentch swirled like a burning nebula of eyes and talons and serpentine fire. They circled Doom. He circled nothing. The gods spoke first. Their voices did not echo. They overlapped, forming a choir of blasphemy that bent the warp around them. "You stand before eternity, Doom," hissed Slaanesh, brushing psychic fingers across his mind. "Before bloodshed incarnate," rumbled Khorne, each syllable shaking the dimension. "Before decay and rebirth," chuckled Nurgle warmly, as if speaking to a beloved child. "Before change without end," whispered Tzeentch, his tone 1,000 shifting harmonies. Doom remained silent. The Chaos Gods drifted closer, encircling him fully, their terrible forms blotting out the rolling sky. "You hunger for dominion," they said together. "You seek mastery over all futures. You wish to burn your sigil upon the galaxy." Doom did not answer. His armor hissed softly, arcane glyphs along his gauntlets glowing with the same emerald hue as his eyes. He surveyed the gods with a slow, deliberate turn of his head, assessing, calculating, judging. Finally, Doom spoke. "What?" he asked, his voice calm enough to silence the warp itself. "What exactly would you require in exchange?" The four leaned closer. The warp darkened. Reality quivered, and their answer came as one apocalyptic whisper. "Kneel." The word hammered through the dimension like a meteor strike. "Kneel before us. Kneel, Doom, and the galaxy is yours." Silence followed, a vast, heavy silence. Even the warp, forever screaming and twisting, held its breath. Doom lowered his head slightly, not bowing or submitting, thinking, considering, calculating. Then, a sound broke the stillness, soft at first, a low vibration, a subtle rumble, a sound the warp had never heard before. Victor Von Doom was chuckling. Just a small sound, barely audible, but it was enough to make the four hesitate. He lifted his head. Emerald fire burned in his eyes. "You are mistaken." The warp trembled violently. Doom's voice rose, each word a blade of will. "It is you who will kneel." His gauntlet ignited, not with psychic flame or with warp energy, but with something deeper, darker, and hungrier. The soul engine within his armor awakened, the runes flared like newborn suns, and Doom unleashed it. The warp screamed. A singular eruption of emerald-hungry power detonated outward from Doom, gravitational maelstrom, dragging the very fabric of chaos into its vortex. Khorne roared first, a roar that killed stars in real space. Doom raised a hand toward him and clenched his fist. From the brass god burst torrents of scarlet essence, liquid rage, raw violence, the distilled fury of 10,000 fallen empires. It ripped free from Khorne like molten metal drawn to a magnet, and Doom absorbed it all. The brass colossus staggered for the first time in eternity. His mountains of muscle withered, his rivers of blood dried into dust. Slaanesh shrieked next, a sound of infinite pleasure warped into infinite terror. Doom turned to them slowly, methodically raising his other hand. Purple radiance poured from Slaanesh's body, waves of intoxicating sensation, mastery over emotion and desire, the power to break minds with a whisper, Doom devoured it whole. Slaanesh collapsed, trembling, their form flickering between beauty and ruin. Nurgle lurched forward, swollen flesh trembling like collapsing continents. Child, stop. You do not understand. Doom extended both arms. Green light lanced outward. Putrefying life force poured from Nurgle in torrents. Disease, growth, entropy, despair, rebirth. All of it sucked from him like breath from a dying world. Nurgle's jolly grin sagged. His swollen belly deflated. Flies dropping from the air like stones. Tzeentch tried to flee. He fractured into 1,000 forms, into serpents of light, into burning wings and shadowed talons, and spiraling fractals of forbidden knowledge. Doom's eyes flashed. Time folded, space knotted, the fleeing god froze mid-flight. A single gesture tore his essence free like ribbons ripped from a burning banner. Raw magic, fate-twisting power, secrets older than the stars themselves. Doom consumed everything. The Chaos God collapsed around him. Not dead, for they could not die. Not destroyed, for they were eternal. But weakened, broken. Their titanic forms shriveled like old banners left in the sun. Their divine roars became ragged whispers. Their monstrous silhouettes faded at the edges, dissolving into warp mist. They dragged themselves backward through the dimension, withdrawing, retreating, hiding and fleeing. The 4 Chaos Gods fled from Doom. When the last shadow vanished, the warp fell silent again, and there stood Victor von Doom, transformed, ascended. Chaos power crackled across his armor, reshaping it into something both divine and terrible. His cape billowed as if moved by the breath of a dying god. His eyes burned brighter than the Astronomicon. He raised his hand. Reality twisted around his fingers like clay. Doom flexed them gently. A crack, thin, small, and impossibly bright, split the air above his palm. Then it widened, and widened, and widened, until a colossal tear in the skein of existence burned open, revealing the distant, shining sphere of Terra, the cradle of mankind, the fortress of the Imperium, the throne of the Emperor himself. The warp rippled as Doom rose from the ground, lifted by nothing but will. He hovered for a heartbeat in the center of this now silent dimension. Then he glided forward, calm, regal, inevitable, and passed through the rift. Behind him, the warp shuddered. Before him, Terra awaited, and the galaxy trembled at the coming of the Iron Sovereign. The sky above Terra was calm. For the first time in centuries, the immortal fortress, the golden palace of the Emperor, rested beneath a clear cerulean dome. Pilgrims basked in warm sunlight. Custodes stood upon marble battlements carved from the bones of extinct mountains. The Adeptus Astra Telepathica hummed with their quiet, endless pulse of effort. Then the sky tore open. A wound of emerald and impossible colour split the heavens from pole to pole. A crack in reality itself. Lightning, warp lightning, real space lightning, and something new, cascaded downward in spiraling curtains. At first the Custodes said nothing. They had seen invasions. They had seen demons. They had seen gods die screaming upon their walls. But they had never seen this. Through the widening rift, drifted a figure, cloaked, armoured, crowned in swirling power that bent the laws of physics around him like soft gold. He did not fall. He descended, slowly, deliberately, as if Terra itself had invited him. His voice, when it came, carried without sound. Behold! The word was a law unto itself. Victor von Doom has come. Custodes' captain, Saladion, raised his guardian spear. Defensive formation. Sound the alarm. Doom lifted a single finger. Sound died. Voices died. Thought died. A wave of psychic silence rolled across the Eternity Gate, slamming into the assembled Custodes like a meteor. Every soldier, gene-forged, soul-shielded, mentally tempered beyond mortals, felt a pressure clamp down on their consciousness. Ancient nightmares whispered. Memories of failure burned like fresh wounds. A terror older than language tightened around their throats. Caladian dropped to one knee, not in fealty, but in choking agony. Doom touched the ground. When his armoured boots met the marble, reality itself seemed to flinch. The first Custodes charged, a golden blur, faster than any mortal could perceive. Spear raised in a perfect thrust, meant to skewer even Primarch-level threats. Doom did not look at him. He raised a hand. The Custodes froze mid-stride, suspended in time like an insect caught in amber. Doom rotated his wrist. The warrior's armor twisted, body folding in ways even transhuman bones could not withstand. He shattered into spiraling ribbons of gold and crimson that evaporated into motes of dust. 90 Custodes stood behind him. They attacked as one. A tidal wave of power, precision, and divine purpose. Doom watched them come with the calm scrutiny of a scholar observing an experiment. They reached him. Their blows hit, and Doom moved. Not quickly or desperately, he simply shifted reality around himself. Weapons passed through afterimages, spears bent against invisible constraints. Blades designed to kill gods screamed as they broke. Then Doom struck back. A gesture, a whisper. The marble beneath the Custodes liquefied, swallowing them to their waist before solidifying again, trapping them like insects. Another wave of his hand turned their armor into molten gold, flowing like honey, fusing them into statues mid-battle cry. A pulse of emerald fire roared from his chest plate. Warp energy, tainted with stolen divinity, incinerating entire formations of the Emperor's finest like leaves caught in a furnace. The remaining Custodes fought on. Not one retreated, not one begged, not one faltered. Doom respected that, but he was no longer their equal. He flicked his fingers. A shockwave rippled outward. Custodes flew like meteors, slamming into walls with enough force to crater adamantium. Some never rose again. Others tried, but Doom disassembled them atom by atom. The Imperium's finest warriors lasted only minutes, no more. Thunderhawk engines screamed overhead. The Imperial fists, the sons of dawn, descended in drop pods blazing with fury. Reinforcement beacons were lit up everywhere. Lines of yellow armoured Astartes marched forward with their bolters raised and their shields interlinked. "Brothers," roared Captain Graven, Stand firm. We are the wall. We are. Doom turned his head. A single look, and every Astartes dropped to one knee. Not from injury or force, from fear. He had dipped his fingers into the warped wellspring of Terra, Slaaneish's manipulations, Nurgle's despair, Tzeentch's inevitable dread, and Khorne's blood hunger, and woven them into a psychic command so precise it bypassed even the gene-forged bulwarks of space marines. Graven screamed, not in pain, in humiliation. How? How dare you? Doom almost sighed. Enough. He raised both arms. Portals bloomed across the sky, circular, elegant, and green as poisoned emeralds. The Doombot legions descended. Tens of thousands at first, then hundreds of thousands, then more. So many that the sky itself became a metallic storm. They formed battle lines instantly, their energy weapons powering up with machine-perfect synchronization. The Imperial fists braced themselves, and Doombots landed atop them like a falling continent of metal. Bolter shells ricocheted harmlessly off shields of arcane tech alloy. Chainswords sparked uselessly against adaptive armor. Plasma blasts evaporated mid-flight as Doom's new warp-touch technology consumed their energy like fuel. The Custodes regrouped and charged. Doombots swarmed them in perfect patterns, cutting down even the mightiest of them with fractal beam weaponry that sliced through auramite as if it were paper. The palace shook. The walls rang with explosions. Statues of saints were toppled, and Doom walked through the chaos in absolute calm. The Eternity Gate opened not by force, but fear. Its mechanisms sensed something approaching, something greater than any mortal threat, something beyond even demonic incursion. It opened automatically, as if eager to remove itself from Doom's path. Doom passed through the colonnades, his cape drifting behind him. Gold-armored guardians lunged at him from every angle. He pointed lazily, and entire wings of the palace folded in upon themselves like origami. Servitors screamed and fled. Astartes barricaded halls, only to be vaporized by a casual thought. Psykers tried to bind him, and went mad from the attempt, their minds blooming into warped flowers of psychic gore. Doom didn't slow down. Nothing could have slowed him anymore. The doors to the Golden Throne stood 300 feet tall. Doom pushed them open with one hand. Inside, the light was blinding, holy, radiant, oppressive. The air vibrated with the psychic heartbeat of the Emperor. Millions of cables fed into the skeletal giant upon the throne. The Astronomicon blazed behind his head like a caged sun. Doom stepped forward. He did not kneel, he did not bow, he did not hesitate. He simply regarded the Emperor of mankind, the most powerful psyker in the history of humanity, with the calm analytical gaze of a peer. "I know you hear me," Doom said at last. The Emperor's ruined lips did not move, his eyes did not flicker, his body did not stir. But Doom felt it. Awareness, recognition, interest. "I admire you," Doom said, his voice echoing through the throne room. "You took a species born to struggle, to war, to petty division. and you forged it into an empire of 10,000 light years. His tone shifted. Flawed though it is. The air trembled. Doom walked closer, each step echoing like a hammer on a tomb. You sought to unite humanity under one law, one purpose, one vision. He stopped mere feet from the Emperor. But you failed. If any other being had spoken those words, even a Primarch, the Emperor's psychic power would have annihilated them. But Doom felt only a ripple of emotion. Agreement. Yes, Doom whispered, emerald fire dancing along his gauntlets. You understand. Your empire is crumbling. Your sons are broken or dead. Your people suffer, and you sit upon a throne that consumes your flesh and chains your will. Doom leaned in slightly. A monarch examining another. But Doom will not fail. The warp flared around him. 4 colors woven into one impossible flame. Chaos stolen, tamed and mastered. Doom spread his arms. I will finish what you began. The palace shook. The ground cracked. The Astronomicon flickered. I will unite this galaxy. A whisper of raw power rippled outward. Under one throne. His mask gleamed. Under one will. He bowed his head, not in humility, but in declaration. Under Doom. And Terra trembled as a new age began. The Golden Throne screamed. Not the alarms, those were already shrieking, blaring doom across Terra, but the machine itself. The ancient, rotting god engine that had held the Emperor alive for 10 millennia bucked as psychic pressure built like a star on the edge of collapse. Warp lightning arced across the throne room, shattering marble, vaporizing custodies where they stood, and striding through the storm untouched, unbowed, unhurried. Victor von Doom. His armor burned with green hellfire. His cloak snapped like the banner of a conqueror arriving at the gates of eternity. Around him, shattered custodies lay arranged like broken statues at the feet of their sculptor. The Emperor rose, not physically, for his necrotic body was fused to the throne, but in psychic projection. The Astronomicon flared through his eyes, twin stars of gold. You dare! Doom's voice cut through reality like a blade through silk. Doom does more than dare. And then the universe broke. A psychic shockwave burst from the Emperor, each pulse strong enough to shatter continents. Doom staggered, once, then raised a gauntlet that blazed emerald and absorbed the raw power. The Emperor hurled visions of past and future, humanity triumphant, humanity extinguished. Doom laughed. Doom refused. He stepped forward. The throne erupted. Thousands of cables whipped at him like steel serpents, each as thick as a man's arm, sparking with enough voltage to kill a titan. Doom caught them in one fist and ripped. The Emperor convulsed, alarms howling as the throne died. Warp cracks spiderwebbed the air. The Astronomicon flickered, guttered. Then Doom reached into the Emperor's chest. His hand sank into the golden light pouring from the Corpse King's eyes, grasping the core of the Emperor's being, his essence, his soul, his godlike consciousness balancing between mortality and myth. The Emperor screamed. It was a sound the entire world felt. And Doom crushed the light. He ripped backwards, and the Emperor's spine erupted from the frail, corpse-like husk that was once his glorious frame. Golden brilliance shattered into motes. The Emperor's spiritual form cracked like porcelain under hammer, splintering into dust and fading into the warp like a dying star. His withered body sagged, empty, before crumbling to dust. The Emperor of mankind was gone. The doors of the throne room cracked open under immense force. Custodes, Grey Knights, Inquisitors, every elite servant of the Imperium charged in. They stopped, for Doom sat upon the golden throne. The machine reformed around him, adamantium plates reshaping, circuitry slithering into place like metallic tendrils, eager to serve a new god. The throne's mechanical glow shifted from gold to emerald. Doom placed one gauntleted hand on the armrest. The Astronomicon roared back to life, stronger. Warp storms calmed. Millions of psychers collapsed in shock as a new presence filled the Immaterium. Cold, absolute, sovereign. A voice thundered across the psychic heavens. Doom is your Emperor now. No charm, no question, no plea. Just a command. And humanity obeyed. The Imperium changed. The Dark Age was over. Not through mercy or hope, but through control. Under Doom's rule, the Legiones Doom were born. Space Marines reforged in Doom's laboratories. Gene Seed were purged of flaws. Armor was fused with arcanotech plating. Each warrior a demigod in green ceramite. Moon-sized forges constructed legions of elite Doombots. Some patrolled hive cities. Others formed honor guards for Space Marine chapters. Many replaced High Lords deemed insufficient. Doom forced binary worship to bend to logic rather than superstition. The Omnissiah became a subsidiary of Doom's genius, and for the first time in 10,000 years, the Imperium advanced. Where the Emperor had been a beacon, Doom was a blade. Where the Emperor protected humanity, Doom reshaped it. Where the Emperor resisted chaos, Doom punished it with cold precision. Black crusades faltered. Demons broke against Doom's psychic will. Even Abaddon hesitated. And the galaxy prospered. By Doom's definition of prosperity, of course. Peace through domination. Progress through fear. Unity through absolute rule. For decades, the Imperium knew stability. A green age, an age of steel, an age of doom. Far beyond the rim of any Imperium chart, past dead suns, past the cold silence where even the warp grows thin, there existed a place without name, a world unmarked and unremembered, a sphere of black stone floating in the void like a discarded thought. And on that dead world, something impossible happened. Golden dust drifted down through the airless dark. It gathered, thickened and ignited. The dust swirled as though stirred by lungs that did not yet exist, forming a vortex of shimmering radiance. A figure emerged from the brilliance, collapsing onto hands and knees, gasping as if he had never taken a breath before. The Emperor of Mankind had returned, not as the rotting husk upon the golden throne, not as a psychic echo, but reborn, whole, terrible, beautiful. His skin glowed as if light lived beneath it. His muscles were carved with the precision of a sculptor god. No scars remained, no age, nor the wear of millennia. This was the Emperor as he had been at the height of his power, untouched by death, unbroken by time. For a long moment, he simply breathed into the silence. Then he lifted his gaze. The sky above him was not black. It was alive. Warp light shimmered across the void like auroras dragged across infinity. The fabric of reality trembled like drums heralding a king's return. And from that trembling came voices. 4 voices. They drifted across the stars, neither sound nor thought, but something deeper. Whispers woven from temptation, promise, and hunger. They encircled the reborn Emperor like vultures circling a resurrected lion. They spoke as one, not mocking or triumphant, but eager, hopeful, for they felt what had returned. They felt the magnitude of what had risen from death, and even the ruinous powers hungered for the chance to chain it. The Emperor did not tremble, he did not flinch. Slowly he rose to his full height, an impossible silhouette of gold against the writhing heavens. His eyes burned, twin supernovas, blinding, infinite, and ancient. Within them danced the echoes of every war waged in his name, every death given in devotion, every sacrifice carved into the ledger of mankind's survival. When he spoke, he did not speak aloud. No. The word was a thought, a pulse of will that rippled through the warp like a hammer blow. The whispers recoiled in frustration, their seductive coils scattering like smoke in hurricane winds. The Emperor stepped forward. One step cracked the obsidian ground beneath him. Another pulsed light through the atmosphere-deficient void. A third sent a shockwave of golden power sweeping across this dead world. He walked with purpose. Each footfall echoed like judgment. For Terra. For the throne that had been stolen. For the usurper whose arrogance had dared rewrite destiny. And somewhere, across the gulf of stars, the Astronomicon flickered, as if it felt the return of the one who had built it, who had sacrificed everything to sustain it, who now came to claim it back. The Emperor of Mankind marched into the void, toward